Welcome, everybody. I am Megan McDonough, and I am your host for today. Caroline, of course, sends her love. She's not going to make it today, but I hope to do the best that I can to fill her very big shoes. It's always my joy and pleasure to be here together in community to talk about those things that help us thrive as humans. And today we have a very special guest from Denmark, going to talk about walking. But before I introduce Mikael, my friend, and also a SIP graduate, let's do like we always do, which is to get centered in this moment. So wherever you are, and I'm going to turn over my cell phone because I see someone's trying to reach me, which is kind of distracting. So if you have anything like that around you, turn it over, push it away, and allow yourself to be fully present here. If it's comfortable to do so, you can close your eyes or take a soft gaze. Wherever you are in this moment, take a nice deep breath in and a big exhale. One of the greatest gifts of the human mind is that we're able to do mental time travel. It's also one of the greatest curses when we're trying to be present. Taking another deep breath in. And as you exhale, imagine that you're letting the past go and you're not quite ready to reach the future. So you're just settling into your body. Bring your attention all the way down to your feet and just notice the temperature, the sensation of the socks, the connection to the earth. And notice that connection from the foot to the shin, to the knee, to the thighs and hips, all the way up the spine through the crown of the head. Notice that line all the way up. Drawing the shoulders down away from the ears, finding some space. And then being aware of the whole length of both arms, right down into the fingers. Being aware of the face, bottom jaw, even the expression on your face. Take another deep breath in. Big exhale. And as you softly open your eyes, take that sort of present moment awareness and look into the eyes of other people you see on the screen. So just allow your eyes to glance at the folks that are here with us. Yeah, maybe doing some waving. I see Elaine and, waving your fingers. Hello, Patrice. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Elaine. Mary. Oh, I'm just going to click through so I can see who is on the other pages. So whether I see your face or not, I see some familiar names. Hello, Gary and Karen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to be together, my friends. Let's dive into who is our special guest for today, which I'm thrilled about. Yay! I'd like you to meet, if you haven't already, because this is his second time on, meet Mikael Kamber. And I'm sure I did a horrible job saying his name. Little do you know, I've been practicing saying his name since we first talked about booking him. Language is not one of my skills, but I practice. So, Mikael, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, and thank you for the
Let me
lovely
introduce you so
pronunciation.
everybody knows your breadth of knowledge and wisdom that you bring here today. So he is the main driver behind TV2 in Denmark's strategy of promoting positive news. So those of you who were on here last time remember him talking about how important positive news is and how being barraged by the negativity in the news affects us. So we are so grateful that he is looking at media and broadcasting through the lens of positive news. He's worked in the field of positive psychology for more than a decade, and he has written 4 books on different aspects. He's a lecturer and teacher and a graduate of the certificate in positive psychology here at Whole Being Institute. So he is one of our beloved alum and part of our community of teachers going out in the world and spreading this good work. Mikael is currently writing his 5th book, I'm happy to say, which explores a connection between walking and thriving. During the pandemic, he has transformed several of his indoor speeches and workshops on positive psychology to outdoor walks with live audiences. Doesn't that sound heavenly, to be able to go outside and walk together and learn this? Yahoo. So without further ado, welcome, Mikael.
Thank you so much. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So great to be here again. And I feel so humble about it. I mean, there's been rock stars on the show. For example, I heard your interview with Barbara Fredrickson a few weeks ago. Wasn't that great? Such a grounded person.
I enjoyed that conversation with her. She is has like in 5 minutes can give you a ton of information that will probably take me 2 weeks to actually digest.
Yeah, exactly. She's also like a lighthouse for me and for many others in the field of positive psychology. So absolutely one of my favorites. So me sitting here in the same session really humbles me, because even though I'm 6'7", that will be, I feel like a midget in comparison. But I'm so happy to be allowed to be here.
Well, I think it's not about a reputation. I do think one of the things I've loved about this platform is that everybody's perspective from the alumni and how they teach it out in the world is uniquely their own. And everybody, raise your hand if from every person you've heard, even if everyone talked about gratitude, getting it from every person in a different perspective, raise your hand if you get something new every time someone shares it. So I think whether it's a Barbara Fredrickson, whether it's a Mikael, whether it's a Nancy or Mega or Ellen, each of us, when we have the lived experience of this work and we share it forward, it makes a difference in the world.
I want to remind you to record.
I know someone else said that. I actually have my recording on, so it says on my screen that it's recording.
It says on mine too here on the other side of the Atlantic that you actually are recording.
Yay!
Good
so
job.
Thank you for.
Good job,
I got
Megan.
a couple of direct emails that wait a minute, record. I think we're recording. It says it on my end, so I appreciate y'all looking out for me.
Yeah. Can I show you a picture?
I would love you to share your screen and show me where you were this morning.
Yeah. Actually, it was your time maybe this morning. It's less than an hour ago. Now have a look here. Can you see? It's a path just outside my front door actually, and you can see it's one-way traffic. Right now it's not necessary because, as you might see on the left, it's raining in Denmark. For the first time in 2 weeks, we have spring rain. But walking has become so popular that we actually have to do one-way traffic on the walking path, which I think is one of the benefits of COVID-19, that actually many people have taken up walking again and found pleasure in walking. And I also think you should also look at the yellow sign on the right. Vi går den samme vej, which is Danish, means that we move in the same direction. We walk on the same path. And I think that's also an important part of these COVID-19 days, is that we have, I think, and I feel that, an increased feeling of togetherness, that we are in this together. We will not come through this without standing together. And I think that's a great awareness to have in these days where many of us live our own lives, having our own careers, that we are reminded that you are nothing on your own. So I think this picture is less than an hour ago, and I think it tells a great story, an important story about the days we are living in right now. And we have taken up walking. And that's the subject I've been allowed to talk about. I've always loved walking. I can't really think without walking. When I write books, I actually write them walking, meaning that I have to think through what I'm going to write, and when I come back, I know what to write, and I think walking and thinking move very good together, and I'll elaborate that. But look at the next picture here, which is from one of my walking lectures, which I've taken up during the Corona. Actually, I do quite a few courses, and I've always loved being outside in nature, because nature is the perfect place to learn. There's always something to work with in nature. Can you see the picture here?
Yeah, it looks lovely. I would like to join you there.
Yeah, it takes about 3 hours, and it's about positive psychology, about thriving. What is thriving? What are our needs as human beings? And what happens outside is that the people who attend or participate here, they all carry their cell phones, but no one looks at it. We kind of in another parallel world for 3 hours. And nature is absolutely magic. So this is what it looks like. And the reason why I took it up is, of course, the COVID-19, because we couldn't be inside making lectures, and we still can't. It takes another 2 weeks before we can take that up again. But we are allowed to do it outside. So that's why I took this up, and it has become quite a success. We're having a good time, and you might see that people wear headphones. You can see behind me, maybe you can see there's a suitcase over there, and that's kind of my tour guide set. So the setup is quite simple. Everybody has a receiver, and I have a transmitter and a microphone, and that's it. And then we are rolling. As I said, I think that walking is a very important part of life. Actually, I think walking is being human. Even though that you don't have any legs, you are created as a walking creature. My father is actually no-legged. He has lost both his legs, but he agrees with me that he is also made from walking. Walking is being human, and our biological heritage is also important to positive psychology, I think. And I think that we need an increased emphasis on our biological needs and our identity as human beings, which were created million years ago. And that's why I suggest a new a model for thriving, which I call AMOR. I don't know if it's is it mirrored, or is it in the right way, Megan?
I can read it the right way. It looks perfect over here. I think it just looks mirrored on your screen.
When I see it here, it's mirrored. It's called Roma. Roma. But I need AMOR, and I'll get back to that where I think that's important. Let's look at walking. One of my idols is Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher, and he said this almost 200 years ago. He wrote this to his ill sister-in-law, Jette, or Henriette Lund. Above all, do not lose your desire to walk. Every day, I walk myself into a state of well-being and walk away from every illness. I have walked myself into my best thoughts, and I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it. he said that so many years ago, and
Could we get that quote, that piece?
of course you can. Yeah. What will happen afterwards is that I'll send my presentation to Joelle at JCC, and I think, isn't that right, Megan? She will distribute it to everyone who might be interested.
That's correct. On Friday, she sends out the weekly email with the attachment, so it'll be on there for you.
As you might, have you heard of Søren Kierkegaard?
Yes, yes.
Also called the father of existentialism, the greatest Danish philosopher. And he was a walking fanatic. He walked for hours every day in the streets of Copenhagen, right outside my window. And I often walk in the same streets as Søren Kierkegaard, and he called it his human bath when he went walking, because he was a scholar, but he talked to everybody he met, everybody who wanted to talk to him. He talked to them, and when he came back in his apartment, he wrote down his thoughts. So he was also working and thinking at his very best when he was moving. And he wrote this so many years ago, and science has confirmed that he is absolutely right. So that movement is important to you is something that wise people have known always. And now science has confirmed that actually being human is very closely connected to walking. And let me show you this picture, which is the distance. It's a flight from Copenhagen, which is where the yellow line starts. That's where Copenhagen is. That's where I sit. And on the right, you have JFK Airport in New York. And the reason why I show you this map, actually there are two reasons. First, to show where I am and where many of you are. I know that some of you are in Massachusetts, others are in Pennsylvania, and in many other states, but quite a few of you are in New York. But let's say that this is the history of Earth, which is a little less than 5 million years. And let's say that Copenhagen is the creation of Earth. Earth was not created in Copenhagen, of course, but let's say that this is year 0 when Earth was created. So it's a timeline here. Let's look at the timeline. After about 1 billion years, life occurred. Very simple, single cellular life. And we move on and get to the southern parts of Newfoundland, and that's where we see the first animals and fish. And we move forth and we see mammals in Maine. So that's, now we are mammals, we are it's millions of years ago, but you can see that it's actually a young story here. And we haven't talked about humans yet. We need to zoom a little bit in and see, when was humans created? Were humans created? About here, Long Island, not far away from the landing field in JFK. That's when the first apes got up on their 2 feet and became bipedal, as it's called, and that means only moving on 2 feet. Those apes were also called humanoids, the first human-like beings. And let's look at what happened in those days. Why were humans? How did we occur? Why were we created? Let's have a look. Let's look one of our ancestors right into the eyes. Isn't he beautiful? A chimp. He's a lot like chimps as they have been for many million years. They were living in Africa and still are. About 30 million years ago, something very decisive happened in Africa. There was a climate change in the eastern part of Africa due to tectonical changes. I'll not move into that, but there was significant change in climate, which had importance to these primates, the bonobos and the gorillas and the chimps. They were specialized in living in the jungle. They were living in the trees. They had easy access to food. They ate fruit and leaves and small juicy branches, and they were actually equipped with like 4 hands, not 2 hands and 2 feet, but like 4 hands, and they could climb in the trees with only one of them at the time, and they were also able to kind of move on 2 legs, and I'll show it here. I hope you can see me, but if they were to get a piece of fruit on the outer part of a branch, they could move onto 2 legs and do like this. So they were specialized for a life in the trees. Then the climate change came, and the jungle slowly disappeared, and the apes had no choice but trying to survive in the new kind of vegetation they were situated in, the savanna. And the savanna is a rough place because you have no shelter from the sun. The trees and the branches are actually trying to protect themselves from the sun and from animals trying to eat them. So they have thorns, they are poisonous, and they are very dry and hard to get to. So how to survive out there? First of all, you had to be bipedal. And why is that? The reason why you had to be bipedal is that moving on your 4 legs on the savanna will make you very vulnerable to enemies. You will not be able to see them in due time. And another reason why it's very important to stand up on the savanna is that you are not so much exposed to the sun. If you stand up, your surface is a lot smaller than if you are on all 4s. I hope you follow me. Do you, Megan? Does it make sense up till now?
Yes, I never thought about it in that way, but it does make sense.
Yeah. And that's, if we move a little forward, the reason why we lost most of our hair, except the hair on the head, is that it was only needed here. Because we are protected from the sun here, and then we could lose hair on the body so that it's easier to cool down. So that's why the ape lost its hair. But bipedality was crucial for survival. And let's have a look why. Let's have a look on the foot of this chimp. Let's zoom into that one. Here it is. Here you see an ape foot, which is actually a kind of a hand, or a mixture between a foot and a hand. And what you see here is that it's a little similar to our foot, but not totally similar. You can see the thumb is more like a hand than a foot. And let's now try to walk on this hand. And I would like you all to kind of stand up a little bit and put your hand to a surface and put a little weight on the hand. Can you do that? If you have a table, just put your hand on the table. And now put weight on and try to walk with your hand. Try to lift your hand now. What happens? Put a little weight on, like you have your body weight on your hand, and now try to walk. It's quite hard, isn't it? Now try, and what's the problem here? One of the problems is that you don't have stability here. The hand collapses. It's made for gripping, for handling trees and branches, not for walking. So it's hard. So try now to turn your hand and move on the side. Still put weight on and move to the side like this, and now try to walk. Can you see? It's easier now. You have a lever. You have stability here. So that's why when you see apes walking, you see them walk like this. If you want to, you can try yourself. This is how a chimp walks, because it has stability on the sides of the hand or the foot, which is necessary and which is okay for a chimp, because a chimp is primarily still living in the trees, not on the savanna. So it's okay. But if you're going to live on the savannah, you have to do something about this. If you're going to live on 2 feet, this is not the right construction. This is the anatomy of the chimp foot. And if we compare it to the human foot up here, you can see a very interesting thing, that the amount of bones is exactly the same, 26 bones in each foot. You can see they are one by one, they are similar, but they have different proportions and they have different situations, or they're placed differently. So what happens here? You can see evolution has created stability in the foot. The 5 fingers have been aligned and gathered together here and kind of tied together so that you have stability. Now try to do this with your hand and try to move now. Get up, put on weight and try to do like this, make kind of a foot, and now try to move. You can see you have a lever. You have something that actually has stability and works. And it even works like a feather, so that when you put on weight, it kind of collects energy which can be freed like a feather when you take off again. So this is the beginning of a walking machine. Wonderful, isn't it? It's actually very economical. Walking on a foot like this, it takes very little energy, and you even only need 2 legs, and the rest of your body is free to relax or doing something else. You lack one more thing in order to being able to walk on this construction, and that is stability on the side, because you cannot be sure that the ground you're walking on will be stable all the time. Sometimes you land here, sometimes you land here, sometimes you put pressure on here, and it has to be able to absorb every surface that you're walking on. So you need stability, and the principle is the same as when you eat a pizza. You know, pizza which is cut in slices. You know what happens when you take a pizza slice and just do like this? It will collapse before it reaches your mouth. So what do you do when you eat a pizza slice? You do like this, don't you? Kind of make a curve, and now you see there's stability. And this is also what happens on the foot. You can see it here, or you can just look down on your own foot and see you have this arch from side to side, which gives the stability. So now what you're seeing here is not only the skeleton of 2 feet, it's also a walking machine, which has actually created man or human beings. We were not created upward down. We were not thought out of our brains. Actually, we were created from our feet and upwards. And what happened when we, during over millions of years through evolution, were equipped with this walking machine, is that the hands were freed in order to create technology. And a lot of things happened afterwards. We were created of our feet, and something else happened, and I'll move into that in a little while. But I know, Megan, that you are able to do your very wonderful trick. You can do meditations. And I think we should do a little beware of your foot meditation. Shouldn't we do that? Think about our foot.
That sounds great.
Which we don't do too much.
I'd love to do that. So one of the things that I always like to do is take what we're being taught and actually land it in our body. I noticed as I was listening to Mikael talk, my feet was sort of not touching the ground. My chair's a little bit high for my feet to land fully on the ground. If that's the case for you, you have 2 options. Either stand up while we go into this sort of next exercise, or scoot as I just did to the front of your seat so that your legs are at a 90, sort of a 90-degree angle and your feet are in complete contact with the ground. So whether you're sitting or standing, allow your attention to go right down to your feet. If you're comfortable and safe to close your eyes, you can. Other option is to take a soft gaze. So take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, close your eyes and feel your attention just flow all the way down from way up in your skull, all the way down your torso, down to the hips and legs, all the way down into the shins until your attention pools in your feet. And allow this exercise to be one of sensing versus visualizing, so that you're just sensing the feet. I'm going to start at the back of the foot, the heel, the calcaneus bone. And if you want, just tap your heels a few times up and down and just feel the solidity of that calcaneus or heel bone. It's a really almost like a hammer type bone. And see if you could just feel the hammer of the heel hitting the earth beneath you. Tap, 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 tap. And now bring that to stillness and just notice. And as you notice the heel, just notice the place on your heel that comes in contact with the floor. The back, the side, how far to the front of the heel can you feel it before it disappears? And it's disappearing because there's that arch in the foot. Can you feel that space between your bottom of your foot and the floor? Like the arched bridge. What are the sensations in the arch of your foot? How is your weight distributed over that arch? Is it to the outside edge, towards the inner edge? And wow, as you notice that arch of the foot, notice where it lands on the other side of your foot, the balls of your feet, the pads before your toes. And see if there's any little adjustment you need to make to feel all of the pads, not just one part. So you may need to wiggle your feet a little bit and spread them out a little bit so you can, there's all the pads of my foot. And then go back to the heel of the foot, the calcaneus, and see, there's the calcaneus, the heel of the foot. There is the arch. There's the balls of my feet. And then noticing the outside edge of the foot that maybe comes a little bit closer to the earth than the arch of your foot. And you might even from the inside, what does the volume of your foot feel like? Can you sense the edges? And then allow your attention to flow from the heel to the arch to the ball, all the way into your tiny toes. Hello, cute little toes. And then see if you can land one at a time, maybe lifting all the toes and then placing the big toe and then the toe next to it and the fourth, fifth toe, all the way down to the little biggie toe. Hello, little biggie toe. Getting a sense of each of the toes, maybe lifting the toes and then seeing if you can fan them down and lifting them again and fanning them down and wiggling them a bit. So you get a sense, wow, these things kind of move together, but they're independent little babies. Hello, toes. Maybe curl them under, stretch them wide. Curl them under and stretch them wide, and then allow movement to stop and just notice. Ah, there are my toes. Noticing how your weight is distributed on those toes. Being aware of the top of the foot. These are called, all these little bones here on the top, the tarsals, the metatarsals, the phalanges. Oh, picture in your mind's eye, and we'll feel them and sense them in your feet. All of these skinny little bones that connect the arch, connect the heel and the ankle. And then noticing the ankle. And the joint of the foot is pretty amazing. So maybe lift one foot and circle your ankle around in one direction, using the wall or some of the stability if you need it, and then in the other direction. Wow, look at that range of motion of that foot, and point and flex it a few times. Noticing the connection as you point and flex to the shin and the calf, and then circle it around. Wow. And then lower that foot down, feeling that foot connected to the earth, and just notice for a moment. Before we shift to the other side, lift the other foot up and circle the other ankle around. All the way around in one direction and then the other. And then point and flex that toe, and feeling the connection between the pointing and the flexing, and the shin and the calf. And then releasing that foot down. And notice. And if you're standing, allow your attention of your feet to move. So walking around the room, and if you're like me, you're sitting, just lift and lower your feet, and just getting a sense of the feet as bones and muscles and movement and blood and everything that supports that movement. And then see if you can notice how it attaches or is in connection with the legs, the hips, the spine. What's the movement of the spine and the head and the shoulders as you're moving your legs? Like I'm sitting and I already just noticed it's like I'm naturally moving. What does that look like for you? Deep breath in. Exhale, bring that movement to stillness, and just be grateful and appreciative of your feet in this moment. What are the sensations of your feet? Deep breath in. Big exhale. Thank you, feet. Love them. Yeah. Yes, instead of clapping for me, I'm actually hitting my legs. So you can actually hit your legs too if you want. Wake up your legs. Hello, legs. Hello. Say hello to your heart. Hello, heart. Hello. Go back to you, my friend, after that little movement exercise. All yours.
Thank you. Oh, that was lovely, wasn't it? I was actually thinking while you were doing this, Megan, it really feels good that only humans can feel what we are feeling right now. We are the only mammals who are 100% bipedal. The only mammals who have this feeling of the feet. And as you all know, the body is wise. There's a lot of wisdom in the feet and the way that we use them. Take an important thing as speed. The speed we are moving at when walking and in the rest of our lives. What does speed mean to our perception of the world? Say you are walking and you need to remember something, or you just find out that you forgot something very important, like your keys or something like that, and you say, fuck. And what happens when you walk and you kind of get this thought, you come rocking and you stop. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
When you have to remember something, when you have to learn something, you have to slow down. Your feet know that speed is important. And let's take the opposite, high speed. What happens when you move in high speed, almost running? How aware are you of the world? You're kind of self-centered when you move at high speed. You are very focused on the goal, because you might be moving at high speed for a reason, while you have to reach a goal or arrive in time or something like that. High speed is often very important. Also, when you have to deal with a pandemic and need a vaccine, it makes a difference if you move at high speed or slow speed. It makes a difference if it takes 1 year or 10 years to get that vaccine. Sometimes we should be grateful for high speed because we are focused and we can achieve goals. So high speed isn't bad, but it's something else than low speed, which is where we can sense the world and we can feel who we are. We can feel our feet, just like you helped us to do, Megan. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome, my friend.
That was beautiful.
And
Yeah.
just a note, there was a note in the chat from Diana about Qigong. And of course, in a lot of the mind-body movements, like we have in Let Your Yoga Dance with Mega, or whether it's Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga, there is this connection of embodied awareness to not just this cognitive from the top down, but actually from the bottom up of the feet. So thank you for that, Diana. She says it's important to feel rooted to the ground, like a root, plus there's an energy gate in the foot just above the arch called the bubbling well or the rushing spring. You can feel a source of energy connecting to all the other energy gates of the body. Ooh, that's beautiful, Diana, to think about it that way. You're welcome, Lake. Glad you like that.
And as Mega writes about walking meditation. And I must say, Megan, that's my absolute favorite meditation, just walking.
Yes,
And,
just walking.
Especially walking at quite slow speed. Because when we move like we normally do, without thinking about our speed, we're not aware of important things. Sometimes we are moving too fast. We are what it's called in English, tramping. We're not taking care of the earth.
Yeah.
Literally and in a greater sense. When you move too fast, we're not taking care of ourselves and our surroundings. So walking meditation is a beautiful kind of meditation because it makes you slow down.
Yes,
makes you
agreed.
think,
And then
makes you
Michelle
wise.
Michelle mentioned that she was walking while listening to the lectures, and I love walking, listening to podcasts, and that is a different experience than walking while meditating. I'm not sure, Meg, if you had any comments around walking and meditation.
Oh, that'd be lovely. You have to
yeah,
unmute yourself.
You have to unmute yourself, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much for this, because I'm actually planning to do a moving meditation with walking just later on when I'm teaching yoga and qigong. And I do feel so similarly that when I just slow that pace down, it really, not only it's quieting for the mind, but it's so good with balance. It becomes a balancing pose in a way when we walk that slowly, and it's so good for us. It's just the health benefits are astonishing. And I do a lot of my best planning, which I'm not planning on planning, but a lot of insight and inspiration comes from slow walking. So thanks.
Yeah. Great. And those of you who haven't taken a class with Mega here or anywhere else, you can find her on letyouryogadance.com.
Yeah.
I highly encourage that practice with Mega.
So We were created from below. Did you? I don't know if you have ever thought about that. Our foot is actually our root as human beings. And before that beautiful meditation, I talked about that being bipedal, that is walking only on our 2 feet, kind of freed the hands in order to do other things, in order to become specialized in processing things, not least processing food. That means instead of doing all the work with our jaws, we are able to kind of prepare the food so it's easier to chew and easier to digest. And that's a very important story. The hands made a lot of things possible, made us technological, and it all started with processing the food. And why is that important? I'll show you. Here you have, just a moment. Here we have the Australopithecus, one of the first humanoids, which followed a strategy which I call big jaw, small brain. Look at the jaws here. They're specialized in living on the savanna because you have those branches with a very thick layer, maybe even thorns. And what do I have here? I need something that this might be a branch. And in order to chew a branch like that, I need big jaws and very much muscle in the jaw, in the jaw section in order to handle that branch. Do you follow me? So in order to survive on the savanna, when there are no ripe fruits, no easy access to green leaves, you have to have big jaws in order to survive, in order to live. And there's only a certain space for the cranium or for the skull. There's only a certain space, like 1/8 of the total amount of the body, because there has to be a balance. We have to be able to carry our heads, our skulls. So if you have a big jaw, there's less space for the brain. And when you also have to handle big branches, you need stability and solidity in your skull, so that you cannot be born with a flexible skull. You're born with the skull that you have, and you have to go with the brain that you have, about 1/2 kilo, about 1/3 of the size the brain has today. But if you are able to process the food, you don't need those big jaws. And evolution actually made that possible. Here you see Homo sapiens. And there's another survival strategy, which I call small jaw, big brain. You can compare the Homo sapiens jaw to the Australopithecus jaw and see that it's a tiny one. And you can see that the skull is a lot bigger. There's room for a lot more brain. And you can also see that the skull is flexible, which is possible because we don't have to chew those big branches. We can process the food. So we are able to have flexible skulls. We can actually give birth to children with unfinished brains, which are allowed to grow for almost 20 years before we have a full-blown human brain. So you can see the evolution from the evolution of the feet to the evolution of the hands being specialized. Among many other things, the hands can process the food, which has importance to the jaws, which created the human brain. So the evolution came from below and moved up to the brain and created what has made the difference, the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes is our main tool that in good and bad aspects has given Homo sapiens control of the world right now. If we look at this evolution, let's see how fast it has happened. Let's move back to our map. So you can see the first humanoids, or the Australopithecus and humans like that, were created just about when we are above Long Island, making ready for takeoff on that long journey from Copenhagen, Denmark to New York City. And in order to see what happens now, we need to zoom in. you can now see JFK Airport. You see New York City in the background. And when was Homo sapiens created on this journey from Copenhagen? When there's about 250 yards left. That's how late it happened on that long, long journey. And if we look at modern life, the vast changes in lifestyle that has happened in the last 100 years, when we have actually transformed once again from walking creatures to sitting creatures. How long time is that? And how long time have we been able to buy processed food in supermarkets? Food that we can not always see what's actually in that food. Processed food like pizzas and soups and stuff. How long time is that in this journey? The last 4 inches. And why is this important? Yeah, look at the big picture here. The total flight, total evolution is almost 4,000 miles. Our lifestyle is only the last 4 inches. I think this perspective is humbling. At least it humbles me, because in modern life, when we are so disconnected from our origin and from nature and from quote unquote natural life, we might feel that we are the masters of the universe, and we are not. We have only been here for a short while, and we might leave again in not a very long time. We have a responsibility ourselves for how long time we can be here, but we have only been here for a very, very short while. That's humbling, I think. It's not that we should be depressed on that fact that we have only been here for a short while, because we are carrying the torch right now. We are carrying the torch of evolution, and it's not it's not unimportant how we handle that task. If we take good care of the torch we are carrying, or if we are not taking good care of it. I think this picture is quite humbling, and it's also important to understand why we have the needs that we have. When we look at thriving and positive psychology, I think it's very important to have our origins in our description of thriving. I think you all know Seligman's PERMA model, which is only about psychological factors, and I think it cannot describe thriving and well-being. We need to take the A in AMOR into account. A stands for absolute needs, and here you see the Stone Age man compared to a modern human being, and there's absolutely no difference in our absolute needs. Remember the flight? How short time Homo sapiens has been here. During those 200,000 years that we have been on Earth, only small biological changes have happened. And during the last 100 years, no biological changes have happened. Evolution is not moving at such fast a pace. So the absolute needs that we have today are similar to the needs of the Stone Age man to the left. And what are those needs? Of course, it's we need to have nutrition, and we need safety, a roof above our heads. We need oxygen, stuff like that, and shelter. And all that is taken care of in our privileged lives. What is not as well taken care of are 3 very important factors, which are absolutely non-negotiable. We need those factors to be taken care of in order to thrive. The first one is movement. And you know, there's a kind of a limit. We are created as walking creatures, and we need to take at least 10,000 steps a day in order to be functioning optimally. Actually, the optimal level will be 15,000 steps or more a day, but 10,000 steps will do, because we have modern medicine and stuff that can help us through. And I don't think this is surprising, because if evolution created us to walk, of course we need to walk in order to function normally. The second factor is a healthy diet. And it can be said in a very few words what we actually need, what we are made for. It's to eat real food. That is food that you can see what it is. The harder it is to see what is in this food, the less good it is for us. And not to eat too much, and mostly vegetables. This is non-negotiable. We were created with a need like that. And if you say, okay, should we all be vegetarians? No, the Stone Age man was not a vegetarian, but we just have to eat balanced. Does it mean that we have to never eat chocolate again? Of course not. But most of the time, like 80% of the time, follow this. And then there's the third and maybe most important one, sleep. We were created with evolution made it necessary to sleep. We need 5 cycles, each approximately 1.5 hours in order to recharge our brains. You know that modern sleep science has given us a lot of groundbreaking knowledge about our needs. And what we know for certain today, that sufficient sleep is the price of having a brain. The brain needs 5 cycles of sleep every 24 hours. You don't have to sleep them in a row. You can also sleep one of the cycles in the afternoon or 2, whatever you want. But we need those 5 cycles. And of course, I can assure you that if sleep was not necessary, evolution would never ever have given us such a crazy need, because we're kind of defenseless 1/3 of our lives. It's a big price to pay, but it's the price we need in order to have a brain. The brain needs restitution. And those 3 needs are very important to well-being. If they are not met, it's very hard to function optimally psychologically. So I think the A is very important. It's like the base of the rest. And let's move to the rest. The M, the O, and the R, which is all human specialties connected to our precious frontal lobes. Our frontal lobes is what made Homo sapiens to Homo sapiens, in that respect, that no other creature on Earth has frontal lobes as Homo sapiens. And frontal lobes are simulators. With our frontal lobes, we can actually imagine the future, see into the future, make plans, and this ability has given us lots of opportunities, but also given us some needs. The first one is meaning. When you are able to predict the future, one of the first things that you have to realize is that you're going to die someday. So if we're going to die anyway, why on earth should we wake up tomorrow in the morning? Why should we? If it doesn't make sense anyway, why should we wake up? And this creates a search for meaning. And some people find the answer in religion, and others just in seeing yourself as part of the bigger picture. But this is a deep need which is created by our frontal lobe. So this is not a need which is common for all living creatures. This is special for human beings. Maybe the whales, dolphins, and creatures like that also search for meaning. I don't know, but I know definitely that human beings do. The second one, the O, is...
Mikael, I just wanted to interrupt for a minute because it's 1 o'clock and we have an absolute need to actually conclude. So
Oh, yeah, I'll do that quickly.
Okay,
the next one is optimism. We can actually imagine that things could be better than they are. And we could talk a lot about Barbara Fredrickson here, broaden and build. This is actually what is broaden and build also is about. Optimism, being able to see the broader picture, part of the frontal lobes. And the R, relations, which is, if we only had to look at one thing which is important for our thriving, apart from absolute needs, it might be relations. So let me finish quite quickly and see, does this hold water? Is this watertight? I mean, absolute needs, I think that's non-negotiable. We need that in order to thrive. But the M, the O, the R, does that cover? Well, I think it does when I look at my knowledge of positive psychology. But I became a little more sure after having worked this model for about 2 months. Sunday afternoon, it suddenly struck me that I've seen this before. Meaning is very closely connected to the concept of faith. Optimism is also called hope. And the core of relations is love. So that's what it says in the Bible. Faith, hope, and love is defining human beings. And I think that there's kind of a good cross-check in order to see if the model makes sense. At least it has a long history behind it as a solid base. And I also like that AIMER also is another word for love. An abbreviation or an acronym about thriving has to have a nice sound. And love, AIMER, is a nice sound. And thriving and love have another thing in common, is that we know that we can't live without it, and we can't ever fully explain what it is, which is the wonder about life. So that's how I came up with the AIMER model. It all started with the feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikael. And you know what? It was fascinating. We got a lot of great comments. Karen, thank you for that. And since we are at the top of the hour, I'm just going to ask you all to give Mikael some love. And you'll notice that in the chat, I put in next week, Elaine O'Brien is talking. Dr. Maria Serwa is talking. I put a blog post in there from Elaine as well. And also the fall cohort of the certificate in whole being positive psychology is now open for those of you who have been asking me about it. So thank you. Write your kind notes to Mikael. Thank you so much. I have a feeling we could have gone for 2 hours or maybe a full day walking out in the woods together. It was absolute blessing to have you on today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Have a great day, everyone.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, there we go. If you want,
Wonderful.
Thank you. I'm going for a walk in the rain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
you. Thanks, Phoebe.
Thank you so much.
you. Bye-bye, everyone.